Hello and welcome to or welcome back to my channel. My name is Marin and here you will find a little beauty, a little books, and a little teaching content. So if that sounds like something you might enjoy, I would love for you to subscribe and stick around and join me in my little corner of YouTube. Today's video is going to be my October reading recap where I'm going to go over the 11 books that I read during the month. So let's go ahead and get into it. So as always, I am going to start by taking you through my books that I read from my least favorite to my favorite. Spoiler, there were no 5 stars in October, but we did have a decent number of 4 stars. So this was kind of hard for me to rank out because so many books had the same rating, but here's what I've come up with at least on this day. So we're gonna go ahead and just start off with number 11, which is Malice House by Megan Shepherd. This is a horror book about a woman who moves to a town in the Pacific Northwest. She moves into the house that was her father's. Her father passed away, and she is working on cleaning out the house when she stumbles upon a manuscript that was unpublished. Her father is like an award-winning writer, but this is something that he never published. She starts reading it and weird things start happening. I vlogged this one. I'll link it up above. This was not my favorite. I gave it 2 stars because there were things about it that I just truly did not like. Didn't have a good time reading it. It was very slow, but you can watch that vlog for more information. So 2 stars for this one. At number 10 is the 22nd Nancy Drew book by Carolyn Keene, which is The Clue in the Crumbling Wall. This was very hard for me to get my hands on because it was unavailable on Internet Archive, so I had to kind of look around and find another way to read it. I was able to find like an original copy for pretty inexpensive on eBay, so yay, I was able to read it. I gave it 3 stars. In this one, Nancy and her friends, Bess and George, are investigating this mystery at this old mansion, for lack of a better word, and they are trying to track down the missing heiress that is supposed to inherit this house, and that's the mystery. Pretty solid, not as tightly written as some of them that I've written, but still overall a good time. If you are keeping track of Nancy's many talents, in this one she now knows how to pilot a plane, so add that to her list, but overall a good time, 3 stars. Coming in at number 10 is The Stranger Upstairs by Lisa M. Matlin. This is another one that I vlogged, so I'll link it up above and down below in the description. But basically in this book, we are following a woman, Sarah, who purchases a murder house. And once she does, weird things start happening. My biggest problem with this one was the pacing. I felt like it took forever to get into the story, very slow moving at the beginning. I also didn't like how long the author drug out some of the things that she kept hinting at that were like going on with Sarah and her husband. I need a little bit of resolution like sprinkled throughout the book. I can't wait to the end. It just irks me. So for me, this one didn't really work, but I did give it 3 stars. It was okay. At number 8 is The Family Game by Catherine Steadman. This was the October pick for the Literally Dead book club, which is hosted by Kayla at Books and Lala. This is another 3-star book. I felt like it was a very run-of-the-mill thriller. This is another one that had some decent twists and turns, some things that I didn't see coming, and I enjoyed it. The one thing I particularly liked with the audio is that in the book, she is given like a cassette tape that she's listening to someone like talk to her through. And I liked the way the cassette tape portions were recorded with like the old-timey like crackling sounds. I really enjoyed that. Felt like the audiobook was very well done. But all in all, this is just kind of your run-of-the-mill thriller, nothing spectacular. So I gave it 3 stars. Coming in at number 7 is The Graer by Kim Liggett, and this is one that I was pretty disappointed in because this is one of my most anticipated books that I've had on my physical shelf for the last couple of years. Hadn't been able to find time to read it, so I put it in with my Spookoplathon TBR, and then I only gave it 3 stars, which was a bummer. This is another one that I just didn't love the way the story was told. So we are following a girl, her name is Tierney. She lives in this community where when the girls turn 16, I believe, they are sent out into the wilderness for what is called their Graer because they are supposed to get rid of their magic, so that they can return back to the town purified and ready for marriage and motherhood. And there were some nice twists and turns in this. I really, really liked that aspect of it. But Tierney spends a lot of her time away from the other girls, and the way that she finds out about the truths just wasn't my favorite. I understand why the author chose to do it that way, but for me, it wasn't my favorite. So the one quote that I really, really enjoyed, and I did mention it in the vlog and then also in my review, says, "We hurt each other because it's the only way we're permitted to show our anger. When our choices are taken from us, the fire builds within. Sometimes I feel like we might burn down the world to cindery bits with our love, our rage, and everything in between." So I did like that because it is a good look at like the way that girls in particular can be very vicious towards each other instead of being supportive and there for each other. There's a lot of that in this book. I did like that aspect of it. I just didn't love the way the story was told or the way the author chose to tell the story, if that makes sense. So that's what I didn't love about it. That's why it's only 3 stars. Coming in at number 6 is They Never Learn by Layne Fargo. This one was on my 23 and 2023 list, and I did give this one 4 stars. So we are following a woman who is a professor at a school, and she murders like men who do terrible things to women. And it's her story. There is like a dual timeline aspect. There were some nice twists, some things that I enjoyed. I didn't personally love the ending, but overall it was a good story. I gave it 4 stars. I would recommend. At number 5 is the longest book that I think I have ever read in my life, which is Jonathan Strange and Mr Nol by Susanna Clarke. This was another one on my 23 and 2023 list, and this baby clocks in at 1,006 pages. Yeah. I listened to this mostly on audio. I did some physical reading as well. I really liked the audio, so if you do want to read this, I would recommend it. It is long, but it moved at a pretty quick pace. It took me about a week and a couple days, I think, to finish it, and I really enjoyed it. I also really enjoyed the book. So this is a historical fantasy book, or maybe like historical magical realism. I'm gonna go with historical fantasy. You're following 2 magicians in England in the early 1800s and what they get up to, basically, as they try to bring magic back to England. You have Jonathan Strange, who is the apprentice to Mr. Norrell. He's the one you meet at the beginning of the book. He is something else, y'all. Like, there were some things he did that made me laugh out loud. There were some very funny bits in this book, but he is being manipulated by like these 2 other guys. There's just a lot going on here. You got some court intrigue, some things about the king, who is like clinically insane, and the shenanigans he gets up to. I really, really enjoyed this, but again, it's long, so you're gonna need to settle in and buckle up because this takes a bit, but I had a good time with it. I gave it 4 stars. Coming in at number 4 is Auroras End by Amie Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is the 3rd and final book in their Aurora Cycle series, in which you are following this team of teenagers as they attempt to save the world from absolute destruction. In the first book, they find this girl floating out in space. She is from another time. Her name is Aurora, and each book, you know, continues on from that. The one thing I really liked about this book is the guy on the cover. He was very funny. I loved the multiple timelines because there's a lot of timelines going on in here. However, the thing that kind of made me roll my eyes a little bit is that I don't feel like those dual timelines and the ending in particular were very well explained. I feel like there was some hand waviness going on as they tried to bring all of the stories together. So I feel like plotting could have been a little bit better. I have really had a problem with the main character of Aurora in all 3 books. Same goes for this one. And I felt like Cal, who plays a big role in the 2nd book, was kind of just pushed to the side as window dressing. So that wasn't my favorite, but the story itself I felt like was still very good. I very much enjoyed the timeline with Zila, Finian, and Scarlet. And I also enjoyed Tyler's journey. So those were the wins for me. And overall, I want to give the book 4 stars because I do feel like this was the most enjoyable of the 3 books that I read in the series. Coming in at number 3 is The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead. This is another one that I vlogged. That vlog's already been linked, so check that out if you would like more information. In this one, we are following a girl who goes back to New York to try to track down the truth behind her best friend's murder. And it involves things like cults, a lot of violence towards women, so check out the author's trigger warnings because there are a lot of them. I don't really have trigger warnings, things that I can't really read about, so for me this book was perfectly fine to read, although it is dark, and I had a good time with it. The audio was very well done, but I could only find it on Audible, so keep that in mind if you're wanting to do the audio. If your library has it, consider yourself lucky, because mine did not. But overall, I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars. I felt like it was a very solid thriller, and I had a good time with it, as good of a time as you can have with like dark content, but you know what I'm talking about. I felt like I was on the edge of my seat waiting to see what was going to happen, so had a good time reading it, or rather listening to it. Would recommend if the trigger warnings are something that you can handle. Coming in at number 2 is the 6th now Percy Jackson and the Olympians book, which is The Chalice of the Gods. This one picks up after the Heroes of Olympus series and potentially after the Trials of Apollo series too. I haven't read that one though, so don't quote me on that. But we are back to like classic Percy Jackson, first person point of view. We're following Percy, Annabeth, and Grover on a quest because Percy is attempting to get into New Rome University and he needs 3 letters of recommendations from 3 different gods for 3 new quests because Zeus is an asshole and wants to make things as hard on Percy as he can. And this is the first quest. There's going to be a second one that comes out next year, which I think is called The Wrath of the Triple Goddess or something like that. And then I'm assuming there will be a third one because Percy does need 3 letters of recommendation. I had such a good time with this one. This had such a nostalgic feeling to me. It just put a smile on my face. I loved every minute of it. Honestly, he can continue to release Percy Jackson things and I will continue to read them because I love Percy so much. So 4 stars for this one. This was a romping good time. And the top book of the month of October, which surprised me, was Wonderland by Jennifer Hillier. This one I listened to solely on audio, and this is about a woman who becomes the deputy chief of police in a small town that is known for its amusement park called Wonderland. And a dead body shows up on her first day of work in the park, and it kicks off a bunch of things that come to light to do with like police corruption and a serial killer that nobody knew existed, the truth behind some missing teenage boys, things like that. So there was a lot going on here. You're mostly focused on the main character as she kind of navigates small town politics, for lack of a better word, and tries to solve these crimes. So I had a very good time with this. Felt like there were some really nice twists and turns. To call this a thriller is perhaps not exactly correct, even though that's how it's marketed. This is more of like a police procedural, which I personally love. I love shows like Law & Order SVU, Criminal Minds, etc., which is what this gave me the feel of. So if you're into that, I would recommend it. The audio was really well done, and I gave it 4 stars. It's my favorite book of the month, which was surprising because the first Jennifer Hillier book I tried to read last year, I actually DNF'd. So yay for a surprise win. Okay, now that that's all out of the way, we're going to talk about overall reading stats. So in October, I did read a total of 11 books. This breaks down to 5 physical books, 5 audiobooks, and 1 mixed media book, which was Jonathan Strange and Mr Nol, as I did mostly audio, but also read some of it physically. This also works out to a total of 4,851 pages, which is my second highest total of the year in terms of pages read. In terms of series books, I did read 4 series books and 7 standalone books. Of those series books, 2 of them were series continuations. 1 of them was a series finale in Auroras End, and 1 of them was technically a started series with Malicious House, but I'm not continuing with that series, so that is also 1 series DNF. For author breakdown, I read 6 returning authors. authors that I've read from before, and 5 new to me authors. Genre breakdown works out to 5 thrillers, 2 horror, and then 1 each of mythology, historical, fantasy, and sci-fi. In terms of the age range of the book, I did read 7 adult books, 2 young adult books, 1 middle grade book, and 1 children's book. And in terms of how I got hold of the books, 6 of the books were actually owned books from my physical TBR, and 5 of them were borrowed from places like Scribd or the library, things like that. And then my star breakdown works out to 6 4-star reads, 4 5-star reads, and 1 2-star read. So no 5 stars, but still an overall okay reading month. Now, I always end these recaps by taking you through the new books that I picked up during the month. I do have quite a few books. One of them, though, was actually purchased in a previous month, and I just forgot to mention it. So we're going to do that one first. It is the Enchanted Sonata by Heather Dixon Woolwork. I have read multiple books by her and loved them. This is a retelling of The Nutcracker, and I'm planning on reading it in December for like some seasonal reads. So hopefully I will love this one just as much as I've liked her previous two. But I did pick this one up because this is an indie published book, so I was unable to find it like through my library or any place else. I also had made a return to Amazon, so that left me with some money in my account, and Amazon was doing like an early Prime Day special or something like that, where they'd marked down a bunch of books significantly. So I used the money to pick up some new books. The first one is this chunker right here, which is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. This one's really big, but I have always wanted to read this, and I also want to try to collect as many of these Penguin Classic cloth bounds as I can. This one has masks on it, which I just think it looks so cool. I eventually would like to own all of these if at all possible, so we'll see. But I did pick this one up because this was very much on sale. I think I got this for like $12, and this book is over 1,000 pages, actually over 1,200 pages, so I don't know when I will actually get this read, but I would like to read it at some point, so we'll see. But I did pick this up because it was on sale and I liked this edition. And that one's heavy, just FYI. I also picked up The Radium Girls by Kate Moore. I did read a graphic novel version of this story earlier in the year, but I've always wanted to read the nonfiction version, and this was another one that was like 47% off, so I picked this one up as well. Hopefully I will get to this one next year because I would really, really love to read the full story. And then the last one that I picked up in that little shopping haul was Wintering by Catherine May. This is The Power of Rest and Retreat in Difficult Times. I've heard very good things about this. I've always wanted to read it since I first heard about it a couple years ago, I think. Maybe 2024 will be the year that I read it. But yes, picked this one up as well because, again, it was very much discounted. Then I picked up this one right here just because of everything that's going on with Palestine and Israel. This one kind of gives like an overview of the history. This is The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine by Elon Poppy, I believe is how it's pronounced. This was actually like out of stock because so many people have been picking it up, which is good because I feel like books are one of the best ways to learn about things outside of your own country and culture. So I did pick this one up. I'm hoping to read it early next year because I just don't think I'm going to have time to read it before the end of this year. So I'll go ahead and just read a little bit off the back. So it says, in this groundbreaking book, renowned Israeli historian Elon Poppy offers impressive archival evidence to demonstrate that from its very inception, a central plank in Israel's founding ideology was the forcible removal of the indigenous population, a strategy that continues to the present day. I find it interesting that this is written by an Israeli historian, and that's kind of why I picked it up. I feel like we'll hopefully get like an unbiased opinion of it, and I'm curious to see exactly what went down because I feel like in the US is so pro-Israel that we don't really know the history at all of what's happened over in Palestine, and even what is reported is probably not accurate much of the time, as we've already seen, and I just would like to learn more. And as I said, books are a great tool to do that, so I picked this one up. And then the last one that I picked up was an impulse buy. This is Great and Precious Things by Rebecca Yarros. She is most known for writing Fourth Wing, which I have no interest in reading, and the couple people who have read it, whose opinions I trust, didn't like it, so that tells me that I'm probably not going to like it either. But this is a romance, or at least like a literary romance of some kind, so I feel like this might be more up my alley, give me a better idea of her writing style. But this one is about a guy, Camden Daniels, who comes back from war, and his younger brother, I believe, is killed in the war. And he says no one in the small town of Alba, Colorado would forgive him, especially his father. So he left Colorado, and now he has to come back because his father has sent him like this message. And he has a woman back at home who he had a relationship with, and her name is Willow. And there's something about secrets that are best left in the dark, etc. It sounds up my alley, so I picked this one up. Looking forward to reading it, giving her writing a try, even if it's not going to be with Fourth Wing. And then the last book that I picked up in the month of October was my Book of the Month pick. It's up on my shelf. I don't want to climb up and grab it because it's all the way at the top. It's Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. This is one that I'm very much looking forward to reading. I was really hoping I would be able to get to it this year, but we'll see if I'm going to be able to manage to squeeze that in, because I've already kind of worked out my reading plans for November and December, but we'll see. I could find time and squeeze it in, but this is like a haunted house book. I love Alex E. Harrow. I read both The Once and Future Witches, which I gave 5 stars, and I read The 10,000 Doors of January, which I believe I gave 5 stars or 4.5. So I really enjoy her writing, really looking forward to seeing her take on like the haunted house story. Hopefully I will get to it soon. We'll just have to play it by ear. And that's it, y'all. That is my reading recap for November. This one's a little bit lengthier. Apologies. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, please leave me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to my channel if you would like to see more from me. And I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.